Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
On today's episode, we are discussing The Way Home, Season 4, Episode 5, Don't Cry Out Loud, which originally aired on Sunday, May 16th on the Hallmark Channel and is currently available to stream on Hallmark Plus.
Can I tell you something before we jump into The Way Home?
Yeah.
I want to make a mention about Hallmark Plus.
Yeah.
You know how they have that, what is it called, where it's just like streaming movies all day long?
Like their, quote, live feed.
So I remember when it originally was like in a beta form, and it could still be in beta right now. I don't remember if it is or not. And people were complaining that they didn't know what movie was airing.
Oh, when you open it?
Yeah, because it just starts playing. Like there's nothing on the screen. Well, now in the top right-hand corner, they say like what movie is on, which I kind of love.
So if you click on it, it says what movie it is?
Like as it's playing.
Right.
We've been doing some work at our house, and the dogs have been up in my bedroom, so I turn on Hallmark Plus for them in the daytime. And every time I come into the room, I go, I'll see it. It will be like The Beach House. And I'm like, oh, this is a good movie. Or One Summer, I'm like, oh, this is a really good movie. Every time I walk in, there's a good movie playing. The one with Carrie Russell, that the Hallmark Hall of Fame movie.
Oh, sure. The Magic of Ordinary Days.
Yes. I was like, good movie. So my dogs have been getting some really good movies during the day.
Oh, they're getting their Hallmark education over there.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
That's so fun.
It's a great throw-on channel just to have playing. Love it. Anyway, that's all. That's my plug for Hallmark Plus. And no, they don't pay us.
Nope, but I wish they would. Hey, if you are listening to these episodes, but you're not really listening to our other episodes, give them a try. Because, you know, The Way Home are by far, Wendy, our most downloaded episodes.
I saw the podcast stats. Kind of bananas.
Some of y'all are sleeping on some of the Hallmark movies. Give an episode a listen outside of The Way Home and see what you think. And if you're here for The Way Home, please drop your 5-star ratings and reviews into the Apple Podcast app to let other people know what we got going on over here.
Yeah, we want people, if we are your favorite The Way Home recap podcast,
tell a friend to tell a friend.
Please let somebody know.
Hey, let's hear a synopsis.
Episode 5, when Nick joins Kat on her search for more information about Elliot's mother in the 1920s, the two realize they may be in over their heads.
Hey, Wendy, what is your first impression of this episode?
Me last week. Why is Nick in the pond? Me this week. Okay, but Spats is doing something for me in 1925.
My first impression is don't play with my heart like that again, Hallmark.
Why? What? Oh, yes. Megan texted me. She's like, I literally screamed, oh no. And I was like, I hadn't seen the episode yet. And so I'm watching it. I was like, you need to tell me like a timestamp so I know. Otherwise, I'm like waiting on the edge of my seat the entire time I'm watching this episode.
Not only did I scream, oh no, I'm watching this episode. It's like the last 10 minutes. I was like, oh no, out loud. And then a few minutes later, I was like, no. And my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's very intense.
It was very intense.
We're going to talk about this episode of The Way Home. And I think we should start in the present day, in the aftermath of, you're just loving that cuticle oil. That's your second application of the morning. What does it smell like?
It's supposed to smell like lemon, but it really doesn't, which is kind of a bummer. All right.
You know where I got a cuticle oil?
Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Y'all should follow us on TikTok. We're at Megan and Wendy.
Yeah, you want to see some Dollar Tree hauls? Megan is like
obsessed
with the Dollar Tree.
I sit around. I'm like, can I make a trip today?
Oh, wow. It's really hitting that dopamine for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a problem. But we're going to talk the aftermath of Del's accident.
Yes.
And what's going on with Sam and Julian.
This present day storyline kind of surprised me a little bit. And I watched the episode twice because I watch it for enjoyment and then I watch it to take notes.
Yeah, me too.
And both times I was under the impression that Colton's telling her, come with me, like she's dying, right? And then
Let me take you to the light.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was saying. But then I realized it was Del who was kind of like, I want to go with you, Colton. And Jacob was like begging her to stay. And then he was like, no, Jacob's home. You need to stay with Jacob. So I thought all this was done really well, even though my interpretation of it was incorrect. But after sitting with it, I thought it was done really well. Just like in the episode when we had Thomas and Jacob and that whole conversation happening in a memory or conscious or whatever.
Right.
I thought this was really well done. Del's, I'm not going to say like dreaming, but she is kind of dreaming with a concussion.
Having these visions. I think dreams are the right way to describe them. And I think your idea of where they were going with the intentions Colton had there, I think it might be a little bit intentional, because he comes to her in the woods after she's had this fall. It seems like, okay, maybe she's on the line here between life and death.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then she says, you're not real. And he says, this feels pretty real to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like they're very much in that moment, as opposed to him being the one to say, this isn't real. It only feels like at the end where he starts to push her back into reality.
So I'm not crazy.
No,
then.
I don't think you're crazy at all. I think I was feeling the same way. And I was thinking, certainly we can't be done with Del. Certainly, at the end.
That would be a real pivot, wouldn't it?
Right? At the end, when we have Alice begging and then Jacob comes in, I thought, oh my gosh, I was reacting out loud to that scene. And so they really got me with that. I think Colton's appearance is very layered, and I don't think it's one note and you're supposed to be like, oh no, he's pushing her back into the present. I also think we had wondered at the beginning of the season, are we going to get Jefferson Brown? And it's very interesting the ways that they've managed to incorporate the actor back into this season. And I'm happy for it, even though we're not visiting a time period where he is alive. I can't help but talk about the horse.
Yes.
So what I found very interesting about this segment is they say the horse's name over and over.
Stormy.
Over. Alice says it. Del says it. Alice says it more than once. They talk about Stormy. She says, I couldn't get Stormy in the stables. Alice said, Del fell off Stormy. And it felt to me that they were overdoing it because, and I know why they did it, to make it obvious when Del calls the horse by the wrong name. Because she says, I need to go get Lightning. And I thought, well, that's weird.
Well, weird enough, I texted you and I was like, there's two horses, Stormy and Lightning.
And then, of course, that's the key to Sam. As soon as Julian says, Del says she went to get Lightning. And he goes, what do you mean? Like, Sam. And this is one of those things for me where I'm like, Sam's the guy. Sam knows Del. Sam has all the information. Like, he knows something's wrong. Julian's just the buffoon with his wine who's like,
oh, buffoon's harsh.
Okay, I have some thoughts about Julian.
I have a question first, though.
Okay.
When I'm texting you in real time, are you just like, just wait, Wendy, just wait?
No, I'm not bothered by it at all. But I like having answers. And so I don't want to be like, I don't want to give you too much because you got to experience. You don't want me to tell you what's happening. No, it doesn't bother me at all.
Okay.
I want to talk about Julian.
Okay, let's talk about Julian.
Do you think Julian's coming in a little hot for a guy she's known for 2 days?
Maybe. I mean, he made his intentions clear for sure, but also Julian should have realized Sam is the boyfriend. But then, they had that whole interaction at the table where Del's like, we're not together, whatever. She didn't say we're not together, but she gave the impression that she and Sam were not together. And so Julian thought that was like a green light to move in. Now, do I think it was weird that he was like, I want you to come on my acting tour with me or whatever?
To England?
I
assume he says I'm going to Stratford, which I assume, because he's quoting Shakespeare, is the home of Shakespeare in England, which I thought, y'all have known each other for days.
I mean, time is limited.
So I agree that she does kind of say, Sam's not my guy right now. But prior to that, Julian had shown up with flowers. He had shown up with wine before she gives him all of that information. And he knows she's with Sam. I mean, the man's got confidence. I guess we can give him that. I thought it was a lot. And I wonder what's going on here. I wonder what the end game is for Sam and Del. I wonder if we're going to have some more understanding about Julian going forward, or if this is all we're going to hear from him. I just thought, man, this guy's really going for it. Come with me now. We hardly know each other.
I don't know. Maybe Julian's presence is there, like I said last week, for a storytelling tool for Adele.
Right. And Sam.
It does kind of seem a little out of left field.
A little bit. I don't think anything is unintentional in this show, but
I think his presence really serves Dell the purpose of questioning her relationship with Sam. And then we hear that whole conversation between Dell and Colton. She says to Colton, they want me to leave.
they both want me to come to them.
Yeah, fit into their lives. And they have this, back and forth about how Colton left his life to fit into Dell's life.
Because he was going to go on tour. He was going to go try and make it in the music business.
Right.
And he stayed.
And Colton says, it was a marriage in the middle. It was
We built a life together.
Yeah. And maybe that's just to hammer home the point that with Sam and or Julian, they're not building a life together. I don't know. I don't know the purpose.
Did they want Dell to just mold into their lives as opposed to becoming more a part of hers? That's a good question. To me, it just felt the distraction of this feels. At the beginning of this season, I thought Dell's finally getting closure. Dell's finally able to move on. She lost her son. She lost her husband. She's finally reconciling with her daughter. I kind of felt like she's finally able to live in the present. And this felt like one more return to the past. Mm-hmm. She sees who she thinks is Colton walking into the woods. She has these dreams of Colton. She's still drawn back to that time where she had her whole family together, which is understandable. He's obviously the great love of her life.
Right.
And then when Julian leaves, he once again quotes The Tempest. And when I waked, I tried to dream again. It's kind of on the nose considering she was having these dreams of her ideal life. But she comes back to a present with Jacob. There were some emotional gut punches in this storyline for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alice returning to the present saying I was in 1979. And Dell says, that Jacob's not the only baby I lost. And Alice is like, I'm so sorry, Grandma. I thought that was very sweet.
Yeah.
And then when she calls Jacob and begs him to come home, the maternal part of me really hurt for Alice in that moment, seeing her, she's struggling and there's nobody there.
I know.
Elliot's gone and Kat's gone and
Kat's always gone. Has Kat really been there for Alice?
I mean, they've kind of been on this parallel time traveling. Yeah, they aren't spending a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Their story is not together in this season. And I just felt for her. And
yeah,
then
that was a good scene.
And then, of course, when Jacob comes home and he's like, I'm here, Mom. You have to come back.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. First of all, I do not understand how they're using that child actor, Jacob, who looks exactly the same from season 1.
Agree.
How is that happening? I don't know, because he would have aged a whole lot.
Yeah, I agree. In the 3 years we've been making this show.
But I thought it was really cool how they put Spencer McPherson's voice on him.
Yeah, that was cool. So we have Remy Smith as little Jacob Landry in 20 episodes. The last episode that Remy Smith is credited with is season 3, episode 10. Now, it could be that this is not updated. Mm-hmm. But I wondered the same thing. How does he still look the exact same?
So young, yeah. I just tried to look to see if there was an Instagram account, but I don't see one for him unless I'm spelling. Is it Remy?
Mm-hmm. Maybe just by keeping that long hair, they made him. I don't know. But I think that's a great question.
Yeah. I have a question for you. I want to know if you had picked up on it at all. In last episode and this episode, from Nick and Julian, there has been a reoccurring mention of ease versus complexity.
Oh.
So I noticed it in the last episode, and then I noticed it again in this episode. There's a time when Kat and Nick are talking, and he's like, well, this seems pretty easy to me. Unfortunately, I can't remember specific scenes, but it keeps coming up about things being easy. Things don't need to be so complex. And it's always with Nick and Julian, and then a version of Dell and Kat and Alice that these conversations are happening. I'm just curious if anybody else has picked up on that.
I had not.
One final thing that I thought was really cool in that scene where Jacob is begging Dell.
Yeah.
The music swells.
Yeah.
It was cinematic.
It was.
I was like, and here it is. This could be a real movie. It was I thought it was great.
This was probably my favorite episode of the season so far.
I agree.
And there's some more stuff I liked too.
I definitely agree. Are we moving on to Kat and Nick in 1925?
Let's do it.
I cannot believe I am admitting this after moaning about Nick, but I thought Nick and Kat were very fun together in 1925.
Nick's such a good time in this episode.
So fun. I laughed out loud several times. And he wasn't like being a buffoon. Like he served a purpose there.
Absolutely.
But what I really liked, and our email from the mailbag last week mentioned this too, is Kat needed a second person.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, she's just moving alone in all these spaces. I mean, same goes for Alice too, but they don't have anybody to like work off of.
No, and Nick had some relevant information. So not only did she have someone to bounce ideas off of, but he knew things about this time period. And I think perhaps the most important thing Nick does for her is say, please acknowledge how cool this is. You don't like it?
Not about the coolness factor of it. I do think he softens her intensity a little bit because she's so spun up on like figuring it all out, you know?
Yeah, I can relate to Kat in the sense that sometimes I get more caught in the process. Like, I don't spend a lot of my time. I'm not like, let me stop and smell the roses. Let me sit outside and enjoy this peaceful. That's just, I'm like, what can I do next? What can I do next? What am I doing now? I'm always doing. And I think Kat is always doing.
Yeah.
And Nick had this perspective of, hey, I know you're so driven by the next thing and solving this next thing, but experience the moment that you're living in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, okay, but Kat, there are real stakes here. So she does have to take it seriously. I enjoyed Nick's lighter side.
Yeah. I really enjoyed their banter. I thought it was fun. And what's funny is that like we haven't seen Kat and Nick like that together. So it felt sort of refreshing.
Yeah, and I think it does. We kind of said last week, I think I said, I don't like who they've turned adult Nick into. There was some perspective in the listener mailbag. Yeah, he is going to think it's cool to time travel. And I think that's reality. When he learns my friend time travels and now I get to do it too, I think there's some child of the 80s and 90s who's going to be like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought it was kind of funny, like when they come up and she's like, that was brutal. And he was like, that was awesome.
Is it always like that?
Yeah, I enjoyed him there. Now, I did love like when they're at is it called the coffee spoon?
Oh, the speakeasy?
Yeah.
I just call it the speakeasy. It might be called the coffee spoon.
It has a name.
Because I remember in the Inspector Kane being like, I know it wasn't coffee. And they're all drinking out of coffee mugs.
I think it's called a coffee spoon. Anyway, when she's like, do not take drinks from them. Do not. And like she turns around and he's there with the guys already. And then when they come back and they're singing their songs and all that stuff, I just thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
But the big like, at the end.
Oh my gosh.
When they get busted by the Augie boys and they're eavesdropping into what they're, where they're making their booze at. And did you notice they dropped Al Capone's name? Not Kat and Nick, but the Augie boys did.
I didn't hear it this time.
So they were like, oh, we have to make the booze correctly or whatever for Capone and the boys, the Chicago boys or whatever. And because remember, like in an earlier episode this season, they were saying like talking about like the rum running and all that stuff, and there was mob ties and whatever. So anyhow, I heard Al Capone's name dropped in this episode. So then they get busted. They're sitting behind the logs. I mean, like it's typical Kat, Alice, anytime travelers like right there.
They get there and she basically runs into the middle of their camp.
Totally.
I was like, what are we doing?
Right. Exactly.
You deserve to get caught.
But they're running back. They take off. They're running back. They run into Fern at the Landry farm. And she's like, what are you doing here at the Landry farm? She doesn't live there.
Right.
Was she seeing Cliff? I know she said, I'm returning my almanac. You're being careless.
Yes.
And then the Augie boys show up and they're not on foot. They're in their truck or whatever. I'm like, how Nick and Kat are out running
right.
these guys is wild to me, but whatever. It was very tense the way that they did this scene.
This was my oh no scene.
Kat's jamming. First of all, I'm like, how is Nick trailing her?
Yes.
You know, she's running in like a like a little heel.
And a dress.
And a dress, jumps in.
Well, first I was like, why does she jump? Like, you can't jump without him.
Yeah, they gotta
need to be holding hands.
Yeah, unless it's just panic. In the
So when
moment.
she jumped, that's when I was like, oh no.
Nick's gonna be left behind.
Yeah. And then they skirmish on the banks and the Fern tries to yank Kat under.
Yeah.
And Kat and Nick finally connect and they disappear. There has been some more question. Are the Ferns related to Fern the person
Oh.
in terms of controlling the pond?
Oh.
But I thought that was well done. Highly suspenseful. And
Highly suspenseful.
I was like, Nick's going to get left behind. Here are some other things I think that are worth noticing in this time travel period. Nick uses the name Spats. That's borrowed from the movie Some Like It Hot. The character's name is Spats Colombo. He's a mob boss who runs a speakeasy.
Perfect.
At the Herald, Kat discovers an Alice in Wonderland book inscribed to Fern from Auntie Coop. And Kat goes, Tessa Cooper? And then
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
I was annoyed in this scene. Of course, like Auntie Coop to Tessa Cooper, it's not a far stretch here. But just last episode, we had Kat remembering writing matching between things.
Yes.
Why wouldn't she have noticed that the writing is the same? Was it the same? I
don't know.
I don't know. But like, if she could be like, oh, look at this entry in the almanac is the same as Elliot's letter. Why wouldn't she go,
That's the same
that's the same handwriting, not Tessa Cooper? Anyway, that's my beef. Okay, go ahead.
Kat and Grayson have an interaction.
Yeah.
And Grayson does not trust Kat.
He was kind of scary in the nicest way, right?
He was scary in the nicest way. Yeah, like that his tone was not menacing. But his words, he kept saying like, oh, Fern's telling you all her secrets. And she thinks she's connected to Cliff Kane and all of these things. And then he gets a phone call and Kat leaves and we hear him yelling, that's not part of the deal. I want you to get rid of her right now. I've already dealt with Fern.
Who are they talking about?
Don't know.
Yeah, my takeaway from their conversation is the following. His sister Cassandra gets brought up and he's kind of taken aback that Kat knows this information about Cassandra. Then they talk about how long he's been in love with Fern. He goes, yeah, ever since my sister brought her to Lingermore. So how long has that been? How long has Cassandra been dead?
Well, and I believe the story is his sister died young, I thought. But we also learned that Fern had a brother who died in the war.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Kat was like, oh, like that's another connection between the two of them, that she lost a brother. Of course, Grayson is trying to get this movie made. The lead character's name is Cassandra. Fern is playing it. There's all these interconnected stories that we don't fully know what is happening here.
Yeah, remember also too last season when they were doing the Ouija board at Lingermore and
Yes.
the ghost Cassandra was there. So
yes, great.
I would love some more detail about that.
Yes. And finally, that scene you talked about with Fern and Kat when they're being chased by the Augie boys, Fern's like, I know you know Tessa Cooper. I know Auntie Coop. And she goes, oh, so her prediction came true then. And I kind of love Kat's like, stop talking in riddles. Just like, tell me what you know. And she doesn't really tell her anything. But the idea is that Auntie Coop line suggests that she was maybe an older maternal figure in her life. She's maybe aged since her arrival in the 80s, if she's lived here all this time. Grayson has also said when they talk about Auntie Coop, he said, oh, she's gone a lot.
Yeah, she travels a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot of Easter eggs dropped.
A lot of junk drawer.
Yes.
That was
exactly.
Shout out to our writer inner who suggested. Last episode was like that. I think this episode was a lot like that too.
I have a couple just funny little comments.
Sure.
From this. I liked Nick's line, you never factor in scent when you study history. It's like, it's a lot more pungent than I imagined. Also, Nick's hair after time traveling. Oh my God. So much better.
When he woke up in jail?
Yes.
It was so wavy and cute.
So much better than his usual Gavin Newsom slick back.
Yeah, I agree.
I loved it. Also, Cliff Kane crumbled like a cookie. The second Kat talks about her suspicions about Grayson, he's like, you know it too? I was like, she's literally in your prison and you're conspiring with her to get information.
Yeah.
I mean, the man needs a partner.
I have two things that I bumped on in this time era. At one point, Nick and Kat are walking and he's talking about how much fun he's had in this time travel experience. And he says, I haven't had this much fun in years. 100 years, actually. I heard that. Is that just a casual throw? Like, I haven't had fun in 100 years.
Well, that's a good question. I heard it as we time traveled from 2026. So it's been 100 years. Like him making a joke.
Oh, okay.
I don't think Nick's deep enough to be having this secret time travel past.
That's fair. I just thought it was a weird thing.
It is.
But okay, I hear. Also,
I think it was more like, ba-dum-tsh.
Cliff lets Kat and Nick go.
Yeah.
Out of the thing. And then he says something about like, and you're wearing my clothes.
Yeah.
Cliff doesn't pause and go, why is this guy wearing my clothes? Like he knows for sure he's wearing his clothes. We established early on in the episode that Nick steals the clothes from Cliff. And then he feels like at one point he's going to get busted for wearing Cliff's clothes. But as they're leaving the jail, Cliff says something about, you're wearing my clothes. Isn't that strike Cliff weird? Why would Nick
need clothes? Yeah, I don't know. But again, people are stinky in the past. Maybe he just needed a fresh pair of clothes for whatever reason.
Just interesting.
Yes. Cliff should have questioned that a little further, perhaps.
But this is when
Cliff's not the best investigator in the world.
I think Cliff's got Fern on his mind and Fern only, and maybe taking down Grayson Goodwin, but doesn't quite know how to get there. And it's probably going to be Kat's doing that.
He's like, I have a suspicion, but no evidence. I have a question about Grayson.
Yeah.
We're led to believe in this segment that Grayson genuinely cares for Fern. He talks about thoughts of Fern and Port Haven were the only things getting me through the war. And Kat certainly believes that he is sincere. Do you buy his sincerity?
I have to question it because he ends up marrying somebody else. And why, we don't know. And who this other person is or whatever circumstance got them there. So I don't know. Maybe.
Especially the phone call after I already took care of Fern. What does that mean?
I think it only adds to Kat's suspicion. Like she's worried at that point she hasn't had eyes on Fern during this visit. She's worried about where Fern's at. And maybe she's there's no context there. Like maybe I took care of Fern. I paid her for her role. I don't know, because we're assuming that's Hollywood calling.
Yeah, and he also says, Kat's like, where's Fern? And he's like, Fern does what she wants, basically. And he almost seems like, says it in a tone of, she's a little too independent for my liking. Like, I can't keep her down.
I can't keep her down.
Are you ready to talk about Alice and Elliot?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, we're back in the 70s, 1979, not 1925, like I think Elliot had hoped. Because Elliot's like, Kat went, I gotta go. I gotta be the one to bring Tessa back.
Oh, yeah. He really wants to be the one that brings Tessa home.
I really loved this visit to 1979 for Elliot. They come across Evelyn and Tessa playing in the woods with Lewis. And Tessa is dressed as the White Witch.
Right.
And Evelyn says, your Uncle Colton and I saw the White Witch when we were children, and someday I'll see her again. And it's like this whole like, ooh, I'm the White Witch, you know, the lore of the land.
Sure.
What's the significance there? We don't really know. We also see Evelyn read Tessa's tarot cards. And this is when they have the moment she says like, oh, I see motherhood in your future. There's two things. She says, I see a tall, dark, and handsome stranger. And she's like, oh, well, that doesn't sound like Vic. So is that Griffin? And then the other is, I see a motherhood. And Tessa's like, I don't know if I want to be a mom. And then Evelyn paints this beautiful picture of what it's like to be a mom. And Tessa's like, I can't wait. And so Elliot gets to see this vision of his mother really looking forward to the idea of him, which seemed visually healing.
Yeah, I agree.
And then again, more junk drawer. Tessa steals those two tarot cards, tucks them in her dress.
Those have to be the two tarot cards that are found in the suitcase.
Absolutely.
Eventually. Also, did you notice she said she's reading palms too? And if you remember back in 1925 at Grayson's party, they had a palm reader there, but we never saw who the palm reader was.
Yes, everyone believes that is Tessa, the fortune teller at that party. And then we get kind of a redemption story here of Vic and Elliot.
Can I just say, I thought this scene between Vic and Elliot was one of the best written scenes and best acted scenes I've seen maybe in this series.
Yeah, it was great.
So everybody who thinks I'm an Elliot hater, I thought this was so good.
Evan Williams is doing so much with his face in this entire trip in 79.
I got chills and I cried.
I know. When I said he was visually healed by the conversation with his mom, we have only known Vic up until the last episode as this gruff, abusive, terrible man. Mm-hmm. And once again, Elliot gets to see Vic excited about the idea of him. Elliot was wanted.
Right.
Now, many things stepped in to make the rest of his life with Vic not great. And I blame Vic for that. Like, Vic had a choice, even if he's heartbroken. He didn't need to be a terrible father.
Right.
But I can only imagine if you could see your parents thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this life with my future child. Like, they're so excited just for the idea of him and building a family and building a life. Elliot needed that.
I agree.
He's had a rough go this season.
Yeah, I agree.
So I thought, and just the earnestness with which young Vic talks about his future. Because he comes up, he's like, hey, can I help you?
Yeah, he came off kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Which, understandably, what's this guy doing on your land?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm visiting the Landrys. I know Colton, which is great. Great thinking on your feet,
Yes.
Elliot.
Better than Kat.
And then, yes. And then as soon as Elliot says, congratulations, Colton told me about the engagement.
He just softens, right? Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, this is, again, I'm like, oh, look at me feeling empathy towards Vic and really thinking about, how there's two current, like, very trending kind of sayings right now if you're on TikTok a lot. Like, oh, he's just a boy, right? Like, Vic, the kind of jerky present day dad, was just a boy at one point.
It's his first time on Earth,
It's his first time on Earth, too. So that's why I can give some grace to, yeah, he made some shitty parenting choices, but it was his first time, too, experiencing that. So I can give this character some empathy.
Mm-hmm. We also have another emotional gut punch in this time period with Colton wordlessly telling Evelyn about Dell losing the baby. Mm-hmm. And of course, Evelyn is devastated by this news. It's nice because Evie and Dell in previous years were a little antagonistic because Evie thought she was in love with Colton. Mm-hmm. And now they seem to have come to a really great place.
Let me ask you then, how does things go so sideways between them? Because like Evie dies alone. And I remember Dell from like season 1 being like, oh, I should have gone up to visit her or whatever. Like, how did their relationship go so...
Well, in the post Dell's losses, did she become the kind of person who didn't have anything to give?
Maybe.
Isn't there a scene in season 1 where Evelyn says something like, you owe me to Dell?
Ooh, I can't remember.
I thought that was really nice. Alice overhears. Alice is obviously emotional. This episode did so much to solidify the warmth in Alice and Dell's relationship. Like how much Alice, we heard her call her grandma so many times, which we think of her as Dell, but I thought it was nice. And then again, we see Dell dealing with her loss, and Colton is trying to, can I get you anything? How are you? She's like, I'm fine. She's obviously not fine, but she's just trying to be fine. It's kind of mirrored in present day when the men are trying to take care of her, and she's like, I'm fine. Yeah. I don't need to be babied in this moment.
I texted you. I said, maybe Dell isn't the biological mom of Kat and or Jacob. And this is what is making me think this.
Yeah.
Because she tells Colton she's blaming herself for not being able to grow a baby, right? And I was like, oh, and they had such a hard time getting pregnant. Does this fertility issue continue on, and therefore somebody else had these children of Colton's?
Maybe.
And that is who Kat and or Jacob is. I don't know.
Evelyn?
Maybe. But that's a lot to unpack.
Very much.
In 5 more episodes. So I agree. Who knows? And I doubt it.
I don't think it's that far-fetched of a thought, though, when we're in this. It could tell two stories. One, that she's not their biological mother. It could also tell the story of because she fought so hard to get and stay pregnant. That's why losing Jacob was such a devastating loss.
Totally.
Not that it wouldn't be had she had an easy time getting pregnant, but it just compounds how hard she got to have him.
Yeah,
hard
but then if
she
you're
fought.
Cat, aren't you like, hello? Because they had such a rough time. Dell loses Jacob. Jacob goes missing.
Yeah, aren't you like, hello, I'm still here?
Yeah, she has Cat. That's another child. So I'm like, what if Cat is not her kid?
Oh.
And so therefore it wasn't as like...
Yeah, and what's the secret the typewriter was about?
Who knows?
Typewritten notes are about.
Who knows? Who knows? I have one more thought.
Okay.
I really loved Elliot at the end in the archives. Digging through the archives. So we have Jacob come home and Ellie's like, look, I'm gonna let you guys like decompress and like catch up and whatever. And he bounces and he takes Kat's keys without her knowing.
Yeah.
Which is so unlike Elliot. But prior to that, he and Kat have this conversation. Like, Kat's like, I'm going to go jump. I'm going to find your mom. I'm going to do this. And he's like, yo, slow down. Your brother is home. That's what matters. Like, just focus on that. He's like, it's okay. We can. But you think, oh, he has a little bit of closure. He saw his mom and dad and whatever. But then he swipes his keys and he's at the Herald going through the archives. Hey, Fern, where is she at? And I thought, ooh, this is good. This is like a nice little twisty turn that
It's more like Cat in this moment.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I thought that was really good and had me excited for the next episode.
I agree. I have a couple little things to call out about this episode that don't really fit anywhere. Speaking of Elliot at the end, the text messages that Kat sends him, she writes, just finished Dins, want to meet for vino. And I was like, what? It just was something about it. I was like, is that really how she talks?
Too casual for
Dins?
2 40-year-olds. I can't remember their ages, guys.
Yeah, they're in their 40s.
Yeah. I don't know. I say like yo and use RN for right now.
Sure, I do too. I mean, she wrote, where are you? I get that, but
I'm going to say, I just finished Dins. Want some vino?
It just made me giggle. I don't know why. The one thing I want to say about Nick that I don't know that I elegantly said during that time period is I think it's interesting how we are given the information that Nick was not just being a buffoon a little bit later. We see him walk up and immediately start drinking with the guys. Kat comes back. He's singing with them. He's got all this going on. But when they wake up in jail, he's got the map to their stills.
Yeah.
And he's got all this information about how these operations were running. And so it reframes him as this like, oh, look what Nick's got going on.
Exactly.
And his hair looks amazing.
His hair looks amazing.
All right. Some questions from earlier episodes. When and where is Tessa now? Has she not chosen to come back or is she stuck? What's going on with Nick? He's closing on a house and coming back with Claire in a month. Is there something more to Claire that we don't know about? Or is it simply like the Rachel stepmother to Alice? They just haven't cast this character because we don't need to.
Yeah.
From this episode, who is Tessa to Fern exactly? What's around that prediction that someone would come looking to her? What is I have already dealt with Fern that Grayson says?
Yeah.
Is Julian connected to something larger here, or is this just a romantic foil to Sam? Is there something more to his Shakespearean quotes? The Augie boys and Coop, if she comes back, there will be hell to pay. Who is issuing that threat? Is it Capone? Is it someone we know? And, there's just a lot. There's just so many questions. There's just too many questions. We only have 5 episodes left to get these answers.
I know. I know.
There's no Max in this episode. We haven't seen Casey yet in this entire season, and we're halfway through. We introduced this new woman in Jacob's life in the bar. Elliot is now on a mission to figure out what's going on with his mother. It's a lot.
It is a lot. I have a question for you. Do you ever watch this show and go, we've gotten so far away from like season 1 of finding Jacob who was missing?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
I don't dislike it.
Me neither.
I am frustrated by all the questions and answers just because not really good with delayed gratification. But I'm hoping, it's funny because think about The Pit, right? The Pit,
sure.
We're
talking about the HBO Max series, The Pit.
If you live under a rock, yes. It set out so many questions that some didn't get answered, some didn't have real satisfactory answers, but many were dealing with over the course of a 15-episode season that also dropped weekly. And we're okay with that. I'm not sure what it is about this show that I'm like, I need all the answers and I need them right now.
Yeah.
I kind of need to be like, maybe just enjoy the ride a little bit, Megan. I need a little Nick in my life.
Yeah, you do. You need a little sense of wonder.
Yes.
I hear you.
Well, that's a wrap on our thoughts on Season 4, Episode 5 of The Way Home. We'll be back later this week with a listener mailbag episode. So send us your emails and your voicemails so they can be included in that episode. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time with more reviews. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.